Transcend ordinary power in this episode of Battle Guides, featuring MIkhail. MIkhail is a deadly powerhouse from the heavens. With attacks that boast high power and high defense, little to nothing can stop him from shrugging attacks and then dealing damage back with interest. Unlike many juggernauts, MIkhail has a slew of brawling effects that allow him to bully opponents into the positioning that he wants. However, Divinity is far from perfect. MIkhail's power comes at the cost of using seal tokens, which he only gains by taking damage. This means that he has to make use of his amazing styles sparingly. His below average speed might synergize with the way that he regains seal tokens, but this proves to be a problem, especially when he fights against fast, elusive opponents. These force MIkhail to think differently from many of the cast. Instead of prioritizing stunning, he prioritizes trading, which might make it difficult for many players to understand his playstyle. MIkhail's unique ability is Sealed Power. MIkhail starts the game with 3 seal tokens and may ante 1 during the ante phase. If he does not ante a seal token, his style is ignored. At the end of the beat wherein MIkhail takes damage, he regains 1 seal token. This is why MIkhail proves to be a hard character to understand for most players. Basically, playing MIkhail becomes a game of properly managing your attacks and your seal tokens. As such, you would prioritize taking damage over dodging it outright. And when push comes to shove, a good MIkhail will never shy away from taking damage, as long as it benefits him in the long run because he gains a seal token. However, in order to fully understand the way MIkhail plays, it is really important to look at his power, which is found in his styles. So let's go over those now, shall we? Immutable is an example of why MIkhail is so scary to brawl with. Not only does this style boast power plus 2, but at the cost of a seal token, it gives MIkhail Soak 3. However, this basically means that MIkhail has to spend 2 seal tokens in order to make use of that soak. As such, playing this style will leave you down a few seal tokens after the beat is done. I suggest using this style against attacks that deal more than 3 damage, pairing it with strikes and shots to counterattack and regain a seal token in one beat. Transcendent works in both melee and ranged combat due to the nature of its unique combination of range and stun guard. Its before activating effect gives MIkhail a power bonus equal to the amount of damage he took this beat, which synergizes well with its low priority. It's also because of these unique combination of stats that this serves as an effective way of trading with your opponent. As such, by playing this attack, MIkhail gives himself a lot of room to take damage and gain a seal token in the process. Pair this attack with drives and strikes for amazing results. Hollowed serves as one of MIkhail's biggest payout attacks. Not only does it have decent priority, decent range, a good SOB pull, but it also has a devastating power plus 3. Not to mention, its on-damage effect allows MIkhail to push his opponent a far way back, giving way to MIkhail's longer ranged styles. Do note that playing this style basically means you're planning to hit before your opponent does and stun him. As such, you won't be regaining a seal token this beat. I do suggest that you play this with drives for more range or strikes for more damage. Depending on the range, Sacred becomes an amazing and quite important move. Its passive effect allows MIkhail to dodge attacks that are at range 3 or greater. Mixed in with its decent range and decent power, MIkhail has a pressure tool that most opponents will fear. However, much like Hollowed, this basically means you're not planning to get hit this beat, which also means that you will be down yet another seal token. Due to its range and its effect, I suggest pairing this with either shots when you're far away from the opponent or bursts in order to get into range 3 and make the opponent miss. At longer ranges, Apocalyptic becomes the style to fear. Its amazing power +3, stun immunity, and soak 2 are compensated for by its awkward range and the passive effect that states that MIkhail cannot gain a token this beat. As such, there's a large cost to using this style, as you basically go down one seal token no matter what. It's best used when you think your opponent can't or will not hit you, be it because of the range or the soak. Play it with a strike or a grasp to make use of its wonderful range. And we end with MIkhail's unique base, Scroll. What it lacks for power, range, and priority, it makes up for in defense and end of beat effects. Especially if that end of beat effect basically means that no matter what happens in the beat, MIkhail will regain a single seal token. Easily, this attack should be paired with the styles that make sure MIkhail doesn't take damage. As such, Immutable and Sacred become easy partners for Scroll. MIkhail's two overdrive finishers are the 4th Seal and Magnus Malleus. The 4th Seal is a high power, high damage, low range overdrive finisher that only hits if MIkhail doesn't have any more seal tokens. This basically allows MIkhail to still deal a lot of damage even if he runs out of seal tokens, basically mitigating that weakness. Do note that you can still play this attack even if you have one seal token by anteing the seal token during the ante phase of the beat that you play this overdrive. Be careful, as this attack's range leaves a lot to be desired, so if your opponent has a burst, don't use it. Otherwise, if he's cornered, use it and deal a lot of damage. Magnus Malleus is an average speed, high range execution finisher that deals more damage the more seal tokens you have. As an on-hit effect, you can spend any number of seal tokens in order to deal 3 more damage to your opponent. At most, this attack will deal 11 damage at 5 priority on range 2 to 4. That's great, especially since MIkhail has a hard time hitting between that range from time to time. Do note that you can choose the number of seal tokens you'll spend. As such, if your opponent won't die from this attack, it might be beneficial to keep one seal token, just in case. Regardless of which finisher you end up using, MIkhail has the advantage of still gaining resources even if his overdrives fail. Because of his unique ability, if you get hit while using your overdrive, you still gain a seal token, which is great for you. MIkhail's overdrive finishers have their distinct weaknesses, but when used properly, they become amazing. However, despite that, I still think that MIkhail gets the best use of his special action when he uses a cancel. As a brawler with niche styles for specific situations, MIkhail has a problem with dealing with opponents that have a lot of options. By removing those options from your opponent, MIkhail has an easier time bullying them and dealing lots of damage. So use that to your advantage. And let's get on to that part that everybody always watches these videos for. Because quite honestly, who doesn't love advanced strategies and combos? There are a lot of things to remember when using MIkhail, and I think the first and foremost thing that all of you should remember is that you need to take damage. Unlike many characters in this game, MIkhail wants to get hurt, and that's what makes him so confusing to use. Now this means that playing attacks that dodge your opponent's attack and deal damage are not as useful as attacks that trade with your opponent. Given MIkhail's superior power stat, you will almost always trade positively anyway. As such, more often than not, it's better to pick the attack that gets you damaged in order to maintain your seal token pool. However, remember that you don't need to maintain all 3 seal tokens in your pool. At most, MIkhail only needs 2 to make use of all of his styles, and the only style that makes use of 2 seal tokens is Immutable. Otherwise, all the other styles only need 1. As such, the 3 tokens that you start off with are less of a maintaining balance and more of a leeway for you to make use of your amazing attacks like Hollowed and Sacred at the start of the game. However, when you're running out of tokens, know that anteing is a choice. The beauty with MIkhail is that you don't have to use the style you're pairing with your base. All you have to do is not anti and it'll be ignored. Now this might seem like a weakness for most of you, but if you look at MIkhail's styles, you'll quickly see what I mean. One key example of this would be Apocalyptic at melee range. Now, for most characters, they can't use Apocalyptic at all because number 1, it has awkward melee range. Number 2, its negative priority makes it hard to pair with a dash. As such, it becomes hard to dump it on just any attack, and especially on MIkhail, it basically means he won't regain a seal token that beat. However, since you're MIkhail, you can choose to not anti a seal token, making sure that Apocalyptic is not applied to your attack. And what does that mean? Number 1, its range isn't applied, which means you can still hit at melee range. And number 2, its priority penalties are not applied either, which means that your dash is still really fast. As such, it becomes important to sometimes cycle without antiing your seal tokens in order to conserve them. Remember, when using MIkhail, sometimes the best way to conserve your seals is to just purposely ignore your styles. And in the topic of seals, always make sure to use Scroll. Now, it might not be the best base in the world, but it allows MIkhail to juggle his tokens around so that he always has a token. And it's always guaranteed that MIkhail will gain a token that beat. As if he doesn't get hit, he gains it back by Scroll, and if he does get hit and take damage, he gains it back by his UA. As such, when you want to pick up a lead, it's really important to use Scroll, because when you use an attack that stuns your opponent, Scroll still gives you back your seal token regardless. And on the subject of dealing a lot of damage, here are a few combos that might help you when you're using MIkhail. Number 1, it has to be my favorite opening move in the game, and it's Hollowed Drive. This attack basically has an effective range of 5 because it pulls the opponent 1 space, has range 1 to 2, and lets MIkhail advance 1 or 2 spaces before activating. Not only that, but it has a priority of 5, which outspeeds a lot of good opening moves. Not only that, but it also deals 6 damage. And that's the insane part of it all. If this attack connects, you basically eat 1/4 of your opponent's life at the start of the game. That's crazy. And because of that, you push your opponent all the way to the end of the board, which lets you use Apocalyptic and Sacred after the first beat. Now, if that doesn't scare you, I don't know what will. Next up is Transcendent Shot, and this is MIkhail's only attack that hits everywhere on the board due to its range 1 to 6. Shot's low priority synergizes well with Transcendent's priority penalty because it basically means that MIkhail will always go second. And because of Transcendence before activating effect, that's really good as MIkhail gains bonus power, which lets his attack deal even more damage. As an added bonus, it trades, which means MIkhail gains a seal token back after dealing a lot of damage. Now that's an awesome attack. And finally, we have Apocalyptic Strike. Now this attack works at melee range and long range, depending on whether or not you anti a seal token. Now Apocalyptic Strike with a seal token deals a lot of damage, has stun immunity, and soak too. Literally nothing is stunning you out of that attack, and you're mitigating 2 damage, which is great. If you're going to use Apocalyptic, might as well deal a lot of damage with it, and that's what this attack pair will do. However, if you play this at melee range without the seal token, this attack still serves as a great way for MIkhail to recycle through his discards. On its own and without Apocalyptic, Strike has Stun Guard 5, which lets MIkhail take damage and still deal 4 damage back. And as a good thing, it trades, which lets MIkhail regain a seal token regardless. And that's most of the things that you guys need to know about our resident Virion MIkhail. And now if you plan on bringing this divine being to the battlefield, here are a few last minute tips. Number 1, trade. Trade. You're a merchant. You trade damage all the time. Because taking damage gives you seal tokens. And gaining seal tokens is quite important for MIkhail. So if you're planning on picking an attack, try to pick attacks that allow you to trade rather than outright stunning your opponents. Number 2, Effective use of Scroll. Remember that Scroll guarantees you a seal token at the end of the beat. As such, if you don't know what your opponent is doing, sometimes playing a Scroll is the best bet. Scroll works with the majority of Mikhail's styles. As such, it literally splashes on almost all of his attack pairs. And if your opponent's planning on a dash, Scroll makes his day even worse because he basically just gave you a free seal token. And number 3, anteing is a choice. As Mikhail, you can choose when to make use of your styles. As such, depending on whether you ante or not, certain attacks become viable or unviable when used against the opponent. Depending on the attack that you're predicting, sometimes spending a seal token is not the best idea. As such, you can choose not to spend at all. And remember, the second video I made about the anti-bluff, Mikhail can do that too, as his tokens are super more valuable than anybody else's. Telegraphing your attacks can be deadly in your opponent's thought process. As such, sometimes passing on your first ante will scare opponents as to what your true intentions are. And this is especially true for Mikhail, as most of his attacks are offensive in nature. As such, if you don't ante a seal token, opponents will start questioning whether you're being defensive or offensive. And that pretty much does it for this episode of Battle Guides featuring Mikhail. If this video got you interested in the game, or the lore, or any other games made by level99games.com, I'll put some links in the description below and you can find out more about that. Now if you want to talk to me or any other people in the World of Indines community, the link to that is down there as well. I just love to give a big shout out to TKRS, who plays a lot to Mikhail. And if you guys really want to know how to play Mikhail, you should talk to him. You'll find him on the forums in the link below. Thank you so much, my dear viewers and subscribers, for casting your votes. Actually, it was a really close race between Mikhail and Otavia, but at the end of the day, Mikhail won with 2 more votes than Otavia. So Otavia, good luck next time. Now, at the end of this video, you can vote again like you did in the previous video. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, do not forget your special action. Thank you, and good night, World of Indines. Good night.